obviously looking for. And then more than that, this should help a couple of people specifically, but Julio Rodriguez is the real prize, right? I mean, I would hope this helps Garver. I would hope this helps Polanco. But the prize is just getting Julio figured out. And from everything I know about Julio and everything that I've been told and sort of asking around and talking to people about him, Julio is probably somebody who needs to think less.
Mm-hmm.
He's so naturally talented. He's so quick to the baseball. His swing is so gifted that the less he thinks about what he's trying to do, the better off he's probably going to be. And that's not to call Julio stupid, far from it. He's a really bright player and a really bright person. But he's just so naturally gifted that if you just let him go, he's probably going to have a lot of success.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And for this team, Salky, to be sitting here 7 games above 500, high water mark, right? Well, what is it? 12-4 in the division against their opponents. 4 games up on the Rangers, almost 7 games up on the Astros.
7.5.
And to be doing that with Julio slugging at the bottom of your team.
Yep.
Right? His slugging percentage is right near of the everyday players, right near the center of it. And to do all of that with that there is, I mean, you could look at it. To me, that's tremendously positive because he's going to come out of this.
Of course he is.
He's going to come out of this. And, you know, we've seen some bubbling of it. The average is there, right? He is still impacting the game in multiple ways, but that slugging has got to come, right? I mean, that slugging is the pitching, you know, will wear and everything else over the course of the season. Who knows the crazy journey it's going to be on. Yeah, you have definitely got to unlock him. It is also funny as you talk about just that philosophy. Is it about me or is it about them? Those teams, Salk, that can make it just, you know, about them, the Miami Dolphins, right, of the 90s. That Damon was a part of. My very first NFL action coming into the game in the 4th freaking quarter and looking at Darrell Taylor, Darrell Gardner, Buckner, Trace Armstrong, Zach Thomas, Sam Madison. Patrick Surtain. I could see them all right there, right? I mean, just all of them. They were dudes. The Seattle Seahawks that you got to deal with us, right? You can go through all of their list of Ring of Honor and future Hall of Famers and all pros and everything else. When you've got kind of those dudes, you can just like, hey, man, it is just all about us. You know, when you don't necessarily have that personnel, you know, you've got to be able to adjust.
You know, it's so funny though. I think that's where maybe the comp gets lost a little bit because some of the people for whom this has worked best for Brant Brown are like Mookie Betts. There's nobody more talented than Mookie Betts. So it's not just a talent thing. I think what this is, and again, it's not an intelligence thing. I don't want to I don't want to turn this into a thing about smarts. Just certain players want and handle more information differently than others do.
Correct.
That's not a shot at anyone who handles it better or worse. They're just different.
Jared Goff loves people in his ear talking to him all the way up to the clock. He loves all that information.
He needs it.
Brett Favre, Dan Marino didn't want any part of that.
Right.
Their football acumen was not built in all of that vernacular and all of this thought and all this process and all these odds. It was built into read and react. Last little thing, and I'll spin this fully back to baseball. Over the number of years of listening to Mike Blowers up in that booth, and when asked questions, and even over the weekend, I think Dave Simpson asked him a question maybe on Friday about the strikeouts and all of that stuff. And as you listen to Blowers and he answers those questions, I think Kyle Seager was probably the poster boy for this, right? It was like, Kyle's going to do what Kyle does. Right, he's going to be a 250 hitter. He's going to hit 25 to 30 home. Like that's his ceiling. If he tries to go outside of that, if he tries to do these other things, he's limiting himself. Is he ever going to be a 40 home run guy? No. Is there anything he could ever teach fundamentally to make him a 40 home run guy? No. But he knows himself. Know thyself. Know what your swing is. Know what your skill set is, and be comfortable with that. Right, and there is enough talent. If Ty France maximizes his ceiling, and Julio maximizes his ceiling, Polanco maximizes his ceiling, JP maximizes his ceiling, and Garver maximizes his ceiling, and Rayleigh maximizes. Yeah. If they, you know, and not even all maximize it, just get close to what they can.
What you're talking about, Brock, is an offense that should be a lot more well-rounded than what we've seen.
It's what we saw
that is what this is supposed to be.
Correct.
It is not supposed to be a power offense. It's not supposed to be a contact offense. It's not supposed to be any one thing. it's supposed to be a pretty well-rounded offense. They've got a few guys who have a little pop. They don't have anybody other than Julio with like an unbelievable amount of pop, but they've got Julio with a lot. They've got a bunch of guys with some. They've got some contact guys. They've got some on-base guys. They've got some RBI guys. They've got one or two swing and miss guys who have big power, Cal and Rayleigh. They've got a little bit of everything, and it should, when functioning properly, look pretty well-rounded, as it did for the most part this weekend against a bad Angels team. What will it look like moving forward? I can't tell you that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know what their hope is, and that is by moving on from Brant Brown, they are able to take advantage of what everyone does well rather than just what the pitcher does not well, and they are hoping that this offense will look a lot more well-rounded.